Okay. What's going on? So basically, I'm just going to go over the thinking of our Nvidia trade. It's super simple. You don't need a lot of size for this particular equity in general. It's like it moves so much, it's so volatile for such a large market cap stock, but I love to see it. There's great trades that happen on it. Super easy. This is our second time getting into it properly, but we're not putting on the size that we would want because, in our opinion, it's hard to chase a company that is going up so high. The earnings and the multiple justify these prices up here, but the fact that this is one of the most concentrated stocks in the entire world, essentially, right? Retail's on this, we have institutions on this, we have hedge funds on this. So at this point, we don't mind entering. Matter of fact, we really do want to own Nvidia, but the way that we have approached this is anytime that we do come back, and obviously the landscape remains the same for Nvidia and the tailwinds remain strong, and obviously we don't foresee any sort of headwinds, regulatory issues, spending towards AI compute slowdown. So long that things aren't changing than what they are generally are seen as right now, we are looking to add or buy Nvidia on a pullback. So the way that myself and my business partner have agreed to actually enter this trade and look at it is find our points where we want to be quite aggressive, like what's our max allocation for this trade, and slowly give ourselves about 25 to 35% of wiggle room, and then add more aggressively as prices come closer to that bottom end of the range, right? So what does that mean? If we look at Nvidia, I have another video on my channel. We did the exact same trade. Basically, this was going into earnings, I believe, and we had some profit taking, right? So basically the technicals started to break down. We had this flush, right? Like there's a clear level here, and then we just had the flush. We were buying into this, willing to add probably, we're willing to triple our size at this point from adding here if prices were to go lower. Yet they did not. We gave ourselves enough wiggle room, and we managed to ride all the way up to, I believe, 120s was where I sold a majority of that position. And the fact is, on a stock that's so liquid and is basically the most popular company in the world, this thing moves and has range like no other company in the markets right now, right? So essentially, everything is lining up for Nvidia to be a nice trade. Things might not stay this way for the foreseeable future, but since they look the same and the environment looks the same, we are willing to take the same trade once again, right? So basically, same idea. We start to have somewhat of a sell-off. Obviously, post split, that's kind of when you have your retail start to come in. In my opinion, that's like the last flush of people who are going to be buying into this company, and maybe we see people, larger players, sell into them. Regardless, retail is typically the last participant in any direction of a move. And as we were going up into the stock split, sure, we had somewhat of a little bounce, but it made sense that that was the end of this shorter term run. So prices started to come down. Basically, if you look at your levels, I have it drawn here. It's super simple. This was the zone where we started to look at scaling into with our maximum size. So basically, we only got in 200 shares at the $100 zone. And if prices got to $90, even $85, plan was to go up to 800 shares for this particular trade. So the fact that, well, there are two reasons. It got there, but it was there for such a short amount of time. And I was away on vacation, so I did not have the willingness to execute from my phone while looking at the actual prices that morning. And especially that day, there was the fear of the carry trade having to unwind much more. People didn't really know the implications, including myself. So we didn't act upon it there. But the point is, we had some skin in the game and we were willing to let this go lower. There was no panic as Nvidia started to come down past our entry point because we had way more ammo to add. Essentially, that's the same trade we had here. Maybe we should be going a lot more aggressive for our account size, but to say the least, this is just decent cash flow for this account, and eventually prices might not rally as strong as they do now, and then we can get that aggressive size that we want to hold this in our portfolio. So that's just the high level thinking. The technicals are there, the tailwinds are there. All of the earnings that we've seen in the semi space are showing that Nvidia should have positive earnings, or at least meet the expectations as to what investors are anticipating. And then the question after that is, how will prices react, right? So if they meet expectations, prices come down. That to me is an opportunity to buy. If they miss expectations, but they're not so far off and the guidance is in line and we don't see any major headwinds and prices come back down to the $100 zone, that's another potential place to add. And if we have a gangbusters earnings and we see Nvidia blow through 150, probably look to start selling some of our position or sell some calls. Or if we just have pretty much what's expected, prices don't move so much because it's already baked into the price. We see basically Nvidia start to trade in a range from 150 to 100. Then we can look to start selling at 150, or once again sell some calls, and then just wait for prices to come back down to add to our average. And hopefully the environment stays the same. We don't see any headwinds for Nvidia. And essentially at that point, hopefully we have a big enough size where these positions are actually meaningful, right? So that's kind of the way we're seeing this. It's super simple. We don't trade too often in this particular account, but the simple trades that do come up, why not throw some size on it? And if this came lower, it would have turned into an actual position in our book. So that's basically just the high level thinking, right? Why was our max size to me at the $90 zone? So let's take a look and zoom out as I've done in all of my videos, right? So if we go out weekly, sure, we have our levels, yeah, whatever. But if we start to zoom out even more, okay, this starts to make a little more sense, right? We have prices that somewhat are respecting this 13 EMA. You can play with your moving averages to see what makes the most sense. And then basically if prices came back down to here, that's a zone where that's where the trend is. This is where prices can come back down to, revert to the mean, and then potentially continue higher as the environment for these GPUs look to remain robust, right? The consumer is showing weakness, but companies, especially tech companies that have the cash on the side, cannot afford not to spend money on these GPUs, right? So we've seen Nvidia, it is the golden child. Everyone wants a piece. We're definitely starting to see that appetite lessen lately, and you could sense it in the mood in the overall S&P. And in my opinion, that's why Nvidia actually got below 100, because if we were trading 6 months ago and Nvidia pulled back, it would not have hit 100 and been back to 140 by now. So definitely things are not as powerful as they once were. The price action is still strong. Everything looks good, but the hysteria is starting to fizzle away. So now it's time to actually look at the fundamentals, see how the company is performing, how they're able to manage the space that we're in now, and all the criticisms that people are going to start saying towards Nvidia, because in my opinion, it is inevitable. Emotions are high. When they're high, they're euphoric when they're euphoric, but eventually we start to see a shift in tone because people are emotional. You cannot stay in one emotional state all the time, at least if you're looking at the masses or the markets. So that's kind of the update on Nvidia. It's a simple trade. Literally look back at my last Nvidia trade video, and it's the same setup. It's the same thinking behind it. We're managing our risk. We're looking for this to come back, and we have room for this to actually move. We're giving it the room that it needs, not getting shaken out too early, and we're willing to add if it goes lower. Thanks for watching.